Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode where we're going to be answering the question, do two carabiners create more friction than one when we're abseiling or lowering? Let's get going. This is a 3-part video series. We are covering the testing, the coefficient of friction, a rope sliding around 1 and 2 carabiners in this part. However, we've got another couple of great videos following on from this on slope hill testing, testing devices and hitches, and practical application where we're going to be abseiling 10 meters. So go and check those out as well. The context: there is a trend towards smaller diameter ropes. I've seen the claims that two carabiners create more friction for a Munda hitch and a climber's belay device, but is this statement true? And if it is true, how much more friction does it create? And are there any better options to increase friction? Let's get going. By 1 and 2 carabiners, what I mean, as an example, for a belay device, you've got a 1 carabiner on the left here and the 2 carabiners where they're both clipped in to the same location. Practically for abseiling and lowering, it's about having the right amount of friction to allow smooth movement of the load or yourself under control. So friction, not too much, not too little, just right. Welcome, I'm Grant Prattley from Over the Edge Rescue. On this channel, we bridge the gap between theory, testing, and real-world practice in rope rescue and rigging. Part 1 we're covering today is testing the coefficient of friction. So a bit of theory to start with. For a given load and a rope running around a cylinder, e.g. a carabiner device or hitch, the main things that influence friction are the coefficient of friction. So in summary, this is basically how slippery or sticky things are, considering the interface between the cylinder and the rope. The second thing is the contact angle. So that's all about the amount of wrapping or wraps that the rope does around the cylinder, and to a lesser extent the pre-tension, which is in essence how much I can hang on to the rope, or grip strength. For more information on the theory of a rope around a cylinder is in another video which I've linked here. The theory suggests that two carabiners have the same friction as one, since they have the same contact angle, provided the load, rope and carabiners are identical. Let me explain. For the single carabiner, the one on the left on the diagram, the rope wraps around half a circle, therefore the contact angle is 180 degrees. For the two carabiners, the rope wraps around 2 times a quarter circle, 90 degrees each, therefore the contact angle is also 180 degrees. Let's test the coefficient of friction to see if there's a difference between 1 and 2 carabiners, as well as frame and round carabiners. The known load is 0.1 kilonewtons, which is the normal force N acting at 90 degrees to the carabiner. And the hand on the other side pulls down on the rope, and we measure the frictional force with the load cell. The carabiners we tested are the CT Warlock HMS, which is a frame style, and the CT Snappy HMS, which is a round style. The carabiners, the CT Warlock HMS, was 10mm in diameter, and the CT Snappy HMS was 12mm in diameter. The rope used for testing was the Sterling Canyon Lux 8mm. This is a static rope of Spectra and polypropylene in the core, with a sheath of Technora and polyester. What we're doing in this test is we're looking at 1 and 2 carabiners, also different shapes of carabiners. So we're going to look at the CT Snappy and the CT Warlock and figure out if there's any difference in the coefficient of friction for these carabiners. What we've got here is a load cell. So we're going to be measuring the frictional force, so the amount I have to pull down on this side, and on the other side, on this one down here, we've got 0.1 kilonewtons. So we're going to pull down on this side, and what you're going to see up here on the screen is the load cell recorder at exactly the same time. The additional force I have to pull on this side to move the load. So 0.1 on this side, and you'll see it as an example, 0.2 of me pulling down here to be able to move the rope on the carabiner. So let's get going. The first one here, we've got a single CT snappy carabiner with a round shape. 0.21. 0.21. 0.21. For the single CT snappy carabiner of round shape, 0.21. Single carabiner, the CT Warlock of a frame style. Let's test this one. 0.21. 0.21. 0.21. The single CT Warlock carabiner, over 3 tests, we've got 0.21. Two CT snappy carabiners, 0.24. 0.24. 0.24. Two snappy round carabiners, 0.24. Two Warlock frame carabiners, 0.24. 0.24. 0.24. Two Warlock frame carabiners, 0.24. Just before we carry on, if you're getting great value, I'd really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new video. Let's continue. Let's have a look at the test results now. We did an average of 3 tests. So F, or the frictional force, is the maximum static friction. To work out the coefficient of friction, U, we divided the frictional force F by the normal force N, or U equals F divided by N. Efficiency is a normal force divided by the frictional force as a percentage. Question 1 is, do 2 carabiners have a higher coefficient of friction than 1? The answer is yes. There is a small increase in friction with 2 carabiners compared to 1, around 6%. Let's look at the results analysis. While there's no increase in contact angle, the only difference between the 1 carabiner and 2 carabiners is the 2 times 90 contact angle increases the coefficient a small amount by going from a straight rope around 90 degrees to a straight rope around 90 degrees to a straight rope, compared to a 180 degree contact angle for a single carabiner, which goes from a straight rope around 180 to a straight rope. Question 2 is, does a frame carabiner have a higher friction coefficient than a round carabiner? And the answer is no, there is no increase in friction with a frame carabiner compared to a round one. And as you can see, it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 2 carabiners, it doesn't affect the result. Results analysis for this one. Although the radius is smaller, that does not affect the friction. The only difference is the shape of the carabiners. The frame carabiner, or the CT Warlock, is more oval, and the round carabiner, the CT Snappy, is more round. So if you look at the comparison, even though it's smaller radius for the frame than the round, that won't affect the friction. If you scale up the frame carabiner to be the same size as the round carabiner, you'll see the only difference between the two is the shape. Conclusions for part 1. Do 2 carabiners create more friction than 1 carabiner when we're abseiling or lowering? The evidence. Based on the coefficient of friction test, there is only a small increase in the friction with 1 carabiner compared to 2, and no increase in friction with frame versus round carabiners. Check out the rest of the videos in this series for more information. The next one up is part 2, which is slow pull testing, where we have a look at testing devices and hitches, and part 3, which is practical application, where we do a 10-meter abseil. Thanks for watching this video. For more information, check out my website where I have written a post on the subject. I'll put a link in the description below. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. There are some other great videos on the channel, so check these out as well. Catch you next time.